Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I'm the host of the Be Real Babe show, a spin-off of the Be Real Babe podcast. And today, you guys, if you're tuning into this live, that means it's a Monday, so it's time to keep up with Canada. And you guys, I cannot believe that I have 2 more episodes left and then I'm taking a break. I'm actually going to made the decision I'll be taking 2 months off of the YouTube show for now, and I'm going to be uploading the podcast during the break, the last season of it. So there's going to be content uploaded to the channel, but it just won't be keeping up with Canada or internet insanity for a couple months because it's a lot of work. I obviously am, just like if you've been around here for a while, know that I bite off more than I can chew, and I just need some time to figure it out. And I really, really, really want to enjoy Kelowna over the last couple of months, because if you are from Canada and specifically from BC, you know how gorgeous Kelowna is for the summertime. So I thought I'd take a really long break. Plus, the podcast will be going through to the end of July, and then I'll take a break from there for August. So start back up in September for both of them, which I think will be great. It'll be a nice little break. There'll be a bunch I'm sure that I will miss in the meantime, but there's so many good YouTubers, and I just want to kind of get a little bit more direction for myself and decide what I want to do with the next season of the show and the podcast, since I'm going to be going into season 10 of the podcast, and I want to keep doing both episodes on here, and I might actually just say fuck it and bring the podcast over on Fridays on this YouTube channel as well and have all 3 episodes upload here. But I need a break before I make any decisions. Content creating is a lot, and it's a one-lady show, and you guys know I have a full-time career. I also have a side business, and I'm working on another side business that does involve online and helping all of you guys as well. So I want to take a little break so that I can work on that, get that flowing, and then I can come back here nice and strong. So like I said, 2 more episodes, and I'll take a little break. But if you haven't tuned into the podcast this season, that's going to be coming every Monday and Friday for July and August until I come back in September. But anyways, guys, today, keeping up with Canada, I've got 3 different articles from you, kind of same, kind of different. So the first one we're going to talk about is one that actually connects where I'm currently living to my hometown. Very sad. There was a woman that was missing, and unfortunately she's been found. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the incredible finding of the 3-year-old girl that was missing for 3 days over in Quebec. She is found and safe, and just want to talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to end with an article that actually I was just at work, and when I don't know what it is, Bing or whatever pops up with news articles, is one of those things that actually popped up on my news article that I had never heard anything about this before. And not saying that I should hear everything, but sometimes that's kind of crazy to me with the news suppression on social media. If that's where you spend most of your time, sometimes you really don't see these articles. And so it's about how Jagmeet Singh was not safe over the last couple years, and the government actually, and the RCMP warning him on threats on his life in 2023 and 2024, I believe. So I wanted to get into that because that was a crazy article I had no idea about. So if you're interested in listening to that, stick around and we'll jump right in. All right, babes. Also, check out the hat. Be real. What do you guys think? If you're watching, let me know what you guys think. And then I realized that I was wearing green, and the background is always red for keeping up with Canada. So I hope I'm not giving Christmas at the end of June. I didn't think about that. I just absolutely love the shirt. And then I was like, oh man, you look like Christmas. But hopefully the white breaks it up and it's not too Christmassy. But anyways, guys, so in this episode, I wanted to go over this article because it popped up. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Missing People of Canada website. So it's missingpeople.ca. It's a place that I frequent and I have for the last couple years because, well, missing people is a problem everywhere. I'm not going to say that's just Canada related, but it does happen here quite a bit. It's not something I think that is just in one area. It's kind of spread out for all different reasons, but it's something to this day that boggles my mind and blows my mind how people can just completely disappear. And so anytime I see anything that I can share or talk about, I'm going to try. In the upcoming season, in the next season of the show, the podcast, I do want to focus a little bit more on open cases because you never know. And this is one of those cases that has been open for almost a year, but is now closed. So it does show that there sometimes is, after a year or so, closing. And I think just maybe because I know people close to me that have and currently still going through a missing person case, I think that's why these tug on my heartstrings so much. So I wanted to bring this one to the light because two of them actually. There's two different ones in this last week from missingpeople.ca. And again, really great to go over there, guys. And like I said before in previous episodes, is to go and maybe if it's in your area specifically or even a couple provinces around, I don't think it's a bad thing to screenshot these things and just kind of keep them somewhere, keep them in a file, like get a note and maybe screenshot some of these pictures and keep them with you. So if you ever see someone that looks familiar, maybe you can go back to the description and have a look, because I imagine people with missing family members, friends would absolutely appreciate the extra detail taken, because, and I'm sure if it was someone, well, I mean, not someone that was super close to me, someone I went to school with has still been missing after a couple of years. And I know that it absolutely kills her family. And that's why I think it's so important, if we can, to try and keep these details somewhere in our phone. So if we do see them, we have the phone number to the place or any details that we can look. So really highly suggest, as well as following Missing People of Canada on Facebook. They post constantly. These were where I find out, because, and we'll go into the next one, is like Amber Alerts, right? Those are only used for specific situations, but missing people happen all the time. And I think spreading through social media is one way, and we'll get to the second story, how people can be advised about this outside of their town, again, especially because the news is so suppressed in our country. So this one, update: Stephanie Woodcock, 40, found deceased in Okanagan Lake, missing since September 18th, 2024. So this was on June 17th. I received confirmation from the coroner's office today that it was my daughter Stephanie's body that recovered from Okanagan Lake in Peachland. Stephanie Woodcock's mother, Donna, said in a post to her social media account earlier this week, "I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the love and support received by all." The West Kelowna RCMP and the BC Coroner Service also confirmed the death of 40-year-old woman who had been last seen on September 18th, 2024. A body of a female was located in Peachland area of Okanagan Lake by the RCMP's underwater recovery team on Friday, April 25th, RCMP said in a media release. The file was then turned over to the BC Coroner Service to determine the identity and cause of death. Once Stephanie Woodcock's remains were identified, the coroner ruled that her death was not suspicious. And the original article was, RCMP needs your help finding missing 40-year-old woman from Port Alberni who may be in the Peachland area. Police believe Stephanie Woodcock is believed to be in the Antler Beach area of Peachland as of September 3rd. Stephanie last communicated with family on September 1st, 2024, however, has not been communicated with or seen by them since, says Kelowna RCMP spokesman Corporal Michael Gauthier. RCMP says Woodcock had outfitted her vehicle so she could live in it. The vehicle is described as a gray 2009 GMC Yukon, and a vehicle matching that description was spotted at Antler Beach on September 3rd, where a woman matching her description was also observed by police nearby. Her vehicle has since been reported abandoned and was impounded from the beach area. However, police nor family have had any further contact with Stephanie. So that was originally posted back in, September 2024. And they're just finding her April 25th, 2025. That's super sad. So rest in peace, Stephanie. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what happened. I think the public can rest assured, if they're saying it's not a suspicious thing, perhaps it was an accident. But what kind of just struck me about this one is, again, people with missing families and missing cases, I think, always have that wanting of that closure. And of course, obviously, we wanted the best answers ever, and this is never the answer that you want. But at least it's an answer, I guess. I don't know. I don't want that to sound insensitive, but I really hope that this helps give them closure. And this one struck as well because Stephanie was 40 and I'm going to be 39 this year. And I'm also from Port Alberni. So I do not know her. Her name isn't familiar to myself personally, but, just kind of, Port Alberni girlies, elder millennials, same kind of thing. So really wanted to just take a moment and send prayers to Stephanie Woodcock's family and any friends. I really hope that this gives you closure. I'm so sorry this was the answer. But hopefully that gives you some peace. And I hope she's seeing peace somewhere, wherever she is in the spiritual realm and whatever she believes in. And just make sure this summer, you guys, especially if you're traveling alone, if you can, try and ping where you are with friends and family, kind of, just not necessarily saying that's what happened in Stephanie's case, but if you are traveling by yourself or anything like that, I think it's always good. And that's not saying that's for someone's going to hurt you. It could be an accident, right? So I think always having contact, if you can, with that one special person, checking in is, a really good idea if you can. And again, like I said, rest in peace, Stephanie. And I'm really sorry to her family that was the outcome. But let's go over to the next story. It's another missing person case, but this one ended with a positive. Then there's a lot of speculation going on online, and here I'm not going to bring that up today, just like with Jack and Lily, even though that one is getting a little bit more intense. Kind of curious what the fuck is going on here. Like I said, there's missing people, there's missing cases. I'm not ignorant to that, but there's definitely been an uptick, and I don't know if that's just the media that we're seeing more. I truly don't know, but it just seems like there's more of an uptick. But at least this one, we have a happy ending, fortunately. But I know for a couple days, the whole country was on edge with their on edge, not breathing, hoping that this baby is returned. So 3-year-old missing Montreal girl found safe in Ontario needs rest, privacy, Quebec police. And this is where I agree. And I just want to bring this up because, again, it's news and I think it's important, but if we don't name her, then I don't see, and she is 3, so I don't think she's going to be on social media. But I do agree that this is going to be hard for the family members and everyone around, but I do think it's also something that we need to talk about because it seems like the last cases in the last little bit, there's been a lot of speculation that, and this happens quite a bit, and I understand that we talk about, okay, it's mental health, but let's not brush that under the rug. Like, yes, okay, perhaps that's the reason maybe someone's not all there. I could not imagine. I'm not a parent. I don't know the mental health aspect of what that's like to be a parent. But I do know that ignoring stuff and pretending it's not there is not helpful. So what is happening? Is there support that we can give individuals? Like what's going on? And maybe there's a nefarious, maybe there wasn't, I don't know. But I do think it's important to have these conversations, maybe not specifically the individuals, but the behavior itself. Because I think the behavior itself, we need to learn so we can have signs of this so we don't see this happening more and more. Like this is the more and more, and maybe it's my algorithm, guys. Maybe it's because I've been searching this up a little bit more, just trying to understand these missing cases. There seems to be quite a bit, especially with children here in Canada. And as I'm maybe diving deeper, I'm seeing more and more. And I just think that we need to understand the behavior because most often than not, from my understanding, as it is, it's more likely when it's kids like this, it's more likely that it's going to be someone that they know and family members and acquaintances like that, right? So what are the warning signs? And the more we talk about it, the more we can learn about it, but we don't need to talk about the individual that committed it or the victim themselves, but just the actions, behaviors, and warning signs that perhaps people have seen around them. So while completely agreeing that privacy needs to be kept and, heal baby for sure, but the conversations with the adults, I think, still need to happen, in my personal opinion. Like I said, I'm sure by the time she gets to a space where she's going to be reading this stuff online, it's probably going to be buried. She's going to have to purposely search for it to look at it, and that's unfortunate. But I think maybe after, I'm not going to speak for her, but I would say and hope that once she heals, that she would want that to be looked at so that never happens to anybody else. And hopefully the damage to her is minimal as she ages. But let's go to what actually happened. So Quebec provincial police are asking the public to stop sharing the name and photo of 3-year-old Montreal girl who was found alive in Ontario after going missing for 4 days. The child was found alone on Highway 417 east of the on-ramp of Castleman, Ontario on Wednesday afternoon. She was reported missing Sunday by her mother, who was later arrested and charged with unlawful abandonment of a child. While tips from citizens in Quebec and Ontario who wildly shared the girl's name and photo throughout the search contributed to her being found, police are now asking people to restore her anonymity. What she experienced as a child was a very difficult ordeal, the SQ Jean-Raphael Drolet said in a video on the police force's social media on Thursday. What she needs right now is to rest, regain her strength, and also to return to anonymity. We're counting on everyone right now to stop spreading her identity and posting photos or videos that could identify her. This is intended for her today and in the future, but also for her loved ones who also experienced this event. Ontario Provincial Police, OPP, found the girl while searching the rural area southeast of Ottawa with a drone about 120 kilometers southwest of the child's Montreal home. She was reported missing by her mother in Coteau-du-Lac, Quebec on Sunday afternoon, about 6 hours after they left their home and about some 90 minutes after they were last seen together in Castleman. The 34-year-old mother is scheduled to return to court Friday for a bail hearing. It's unbelievable what happened. Wednesday morning's outcome was met with a wave of relief from public and law enforcement on both sides of the border. In Coteau-du-Lac, officers could be seen high-fiving and shaking hands when they became known that the little girl was found alive and safe. The happy ending, usually is 48 hours, said Paul Laurier, a former SQ investigator. It was very, very close, and it was a very strange case. We don't know the exact, we have bits of information, but police officers have the true story, the full story. They have evidence to provide. But being a parent, having children, it's unbelievable what happened. It was unbelievable, echoed Danny Chaput, who helped lead volunteer efforts in the search. It was such a good relief for all of us knowing that at least she was found alive. That's the important thing. And she's 3 years old, but she's going to be with that for life. But she's still young, so people will take care of her. Though police have said that the child was found alone, they would not reveal if she was found with food or water, or what exactly happened during those days she was missing. It was very remarkable that she survived the amount of time that she did, said Dr. Christopher Labose, a Montreal cardiologist and epidemiologist. While it's not impossible, it's quite exceptional. Labose said surviving several days without food is possible, but signs of dehydration typically begin about a day, putting a person at serious medical risk. The human body is not built to go without water for extended periods of time, he said. Chaput, a member of Association Québécoise des Bénévoles en Recherche et Sauvetage and coordinator with Recherche Sauvetage Estrie, explains how a search like this unfolds. For us, it's the same process as any missing person, he said. But the thing is that we work as a support team for the police officers. It provides us some sectors and some boxes they want us to cover. So we have to get there, finding the strategy best based on our experience, how to proceed, and make sure that we go through and nothing has been missing. So that's a positive, obviously positive outcome. But then there's still the question of what the fuck actually happened. And again, I fully understand just with the way of the world right now. And, I don't want to say innocent until proven guilty because we don't know, right? And I hate to be a person to come to a judgment of what happened. Again, I'm not a parent, and I know a lot of the time there are mental health breaks. I know there's postpartum depression. I know there's things that I don't know the mom's story. There was again a lot of speculation going on online, which I again don't want to spread because I don't think that further helps. Especially if she does have some sort of unwellness or is going through an episode of something for postpartum or whatever. I don't know that putting these individuals under scrutiny, personalizing them, is a great idea. I think speaking about the generality of it, the lack of support that mothers must feel, it's so expensive, especially here in Canada, to get any sort of therapy, whether that's talk therapy or any other kind of therapy forms. Most of the stuff isn't covered by benefits. Most people can't afford stuff. So it's there's a lot of unmet needs out here with mental health issues across the board. This one specifically could be, it's either could be two things. Either there's something wrong with her, with parents when something mentally ill happens like this, or they just did or they're nefarious fucking people. There's only a couple options here, right? So if it is in the case of bad and she did bad and it was nefarious and this was on purpose and she is quote unquote a criminal, then the law will deal with her. But what happens when it's something that is, a mental illness? Is there support out there for these individuals? And furthermore to that, is there going to be more discussed about this in public so that we can support other mothers or parents that might be going through the same thing so they don't get to this point if that is what happened, right? And I understand not wanting to, and especially the child, absolutely agree. Let's, I never seen her name anywhere, so I have no idea. I'm not sharing her pictures. I very rarely share pictures on here. If I do, it's of adults, and stuff that's online. If it's children, I will not, just my personal preference. But I agree, she just needs to be focused on getting better. But again, with all these missing kids cases going around, I do think it's important, and I really do hope that there are people out there collecting this data and really looking into it to figure out what the fuck is going on, whether that's mental health support that we need to have, or even just steps of understanding, what are the signs of a break if that's what's happening. Furthermore, what are just signs of bad, parents that are bad parents? Again, not everyone can get involved, but I think it's good that we all keep our eyes out on what that looks like. I think education is always better in that case. So positive ending for sure, but what a sad story and what's going to happen going forward, right? So it sounds like there's going to be court again. Maybe next week, if I can, I'll try to update that as my final one. And if not, then when I come back in September, maybe what I'll do is do a first episode catching up of all the cases that I've talked about and seeing where things are at. But I guess a positive win of a very terrible situation. However, still, I really hope more discourse happens on, how are we protecting these children is what my hopes are. Okay, so next one, like I said, I was at work and it just popped up, and I thought, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy that I never heard about this, especially during the election time. You think that these are conversations just because, and maybe because you hear that so much about in the States, but I've never quite heard of this in Canada, so I was a little shocked by the headlines. But the headline wrote, "Armed guards, no biking and exit strategies. Jagmeet Singh's life under RCMP protection." Like, is it just me? Has anybody else heard about this? Like, I feel like this is like a big thing that we should, but I don't read the news. I don't listen to the news. So maybe I am missing this because this is on global news, but I feel like, again, not hearing anything on social media about this at all. So what the fuck happened? In December 2023, Jagmeet Singh posted pictures of his wife holding their newborn baby. Singh, then the leader of the federal New Democrats, gazed lovingly at his baby girl and his wife. Not pictured in Singh's social media accounts was the retinue of armed RCMP officers stationed outside the hospital room, there to ensure the federal politician and his young family's safety after the National Police Force determined Singh's life was under imminent threat. During the time in his life when it should be nothing but joy, he needed an armed presence to keep his family safe, said Jennifer Howard, Singh's longtime chief of staff, in a recent interview with Global News. Nobody should have to go through that. That price is too high, I think, for any politician to pay. Anxiety comes easily to new parents, but Singh had more to worry about than sleep deprivation or feeding schedules. Global News reported last week that Singh was notified in late 2023 that his life was in danger and police put tight security around his homes. Singh revealed during the recent general election that he considered stepping away from politics after receiving the warning. He would go on to lose his seat in the election and resign as NDP leader. What was not publicly known and not disclosed to Singh at the time was that he was being closely tracked by an agent believed to have ties to a transnational criminal gang and allegedly connected to activities directed by the Indian government. Citing unnamed sources, Global reported that the agent had detailed information about Singh's travel, daily routine, and family. He allegedly had ties to the Lawrence Bisnoy gang, a crime syndicate the Indian government has been accused of using to commit violent crimes on Canadian soil. In a public report released Wednesday, the Canadian Security Intelligence Services, CSIS, hi friends, you're probably going to watch me if you're going to rule in the government watching what we say online about politicians, so hello friends, said it was aware of a concerning trend of foreign states leveraging organized crime networks to conduct threat activity in Canada. The intelligence agency cited India's alleged links to violence in Canada as an example. That report came just days after Prime Minister Mark Carney met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in an attempt to renew diplomatic and trade ties between the two countries at the G7 summit here in Alberta. Much of the conversation around foreign interference in Canada has centered around states covertly meddling in partisan politics. The idea that a foreign state would have an alleged gang member tail the leader of a major Canadian political party did not come up during Justice Marie-Josée Hogue's recent probe into foreign interference, despite that commission having access to top-secret material. Global News is not disclosing specific security measures. Sources have said that RCMP put around Singh in late 2023 and early 2024. But Howard said when police sat Singh down, a process known as a duty to warn when they are credible threats against an individual's life, that changed the way the party approached the leader's public events and activities. One of the great things about Canada is that for the most part, politicians are pretty free to go about their business. They can go grocery shopping, they go to sports games in their community, Howard said. The RCMP was very helpful, very accommodating, and tried to make it so that he could do what he needed to do. But you can't be spontaneous in those situations. Like if you want to go out, it's planning involved multiple people. It was a challenge for him. The planning extended to know exactly where the exits were from any room where Singh was appearing in public. Gone were the days when Singh could ride his bike up to Parliament Hill, a fairly common sight in Ottawa before the threat was known. We had to do things in much more secure locations, less public access, much more planning on how to go about being in a public place, Howard said. It was most intense in terms of how security presence for probably 2 months, and then it started to ramp down. But it certainly affected how we did our jobs going forward. Like, it never leaves you, right? I mean, once that happens, once you're aware of those kind of threats like that, you never stop thinking about them. I would have so much anxiety. I'm not going to lie. I definitely feel a little sad for him. And I don't understand why these things, not that I would have changed my vote, not that I would have voted for him, but I do wish these things, like, I really, really hate the suppression on social media of news. That's what I don't understand. Like, the biggest thing is that I don't understand is, like, so you don't want your own funded news to go around? Like, that just, it makes no sense to me ever. But yeah, I would also have massive anxiety. I don't think I could work for this guy if I knew that. That would stress me the fuck out. The recent federal public inquiry into foreign interference operations cited India as the second most active country covertly influencing Canadian politics, primarily focused on Indo-Canadian communities, but also prominent non-Indo-Canadian individuals across all three levels of government. Modi's government has repeatedly accused Canada of being soft on the Khalistan movement, activities pushing for Sikh independence in India's Punjab regime. As one of Canada's most prominent Sikh politicians, Singh was initially shocked by the Mounties' warning that his life was in danger, according to his brother. But once the NDP leader processed the news, Gurtan said Singh was not surprised. After all, the warning came just months after the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canadian security agencies were pursuing credible intelligence that India was connected to the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Nijjar, the president of Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in BC, a prominent Khalistani activist, was gunned down outside of Vancouver, Gurdwara in June 2023. I'm so sorry, you guys. You know I'm white as fuck. Apologize for any misspelling I had. Try my best. The Indian government has called the suggestion it was connected to Nijjar's killing absurd. 4 Indian nationals have been charged with his murder and await trial. After Trudeau's intervention, Singh received a top-secret security briefing from Canadian intelligence officials and told reporters that there was clear evidence of India's involvement in Nijjar's killing. Of course, it's surprising when you sit down and you are told there's an imminent risk to your life, Gurtan Singh said in an interview with Global News. But when the dust settles, you're not really shocked, given at the moment when India had already been implicated in, what evidence had already come forward that India at the time regarding the extent of India's foreign interference in Canada. His brother said Singh was determined to not be bullied out of the public role. The part of it was always the toughest for him was the impact on his family and those around him, never himself, Gurtan Singh said. But when you give into this kind of repression, it doesn't just limit your own voice, but it limits the voice of an entire nation, of an entire people, of everyone. And that was something he was keenly aware of. That when you talk about this kind of level of foreign interference, to give in would mean giving in really in the ability to speak the truth to power and to speak out for justice. And I think he understood the responsibility he had to never make sure that never happened. That's insane. I truly do wish that this stuff was surfaced more. Obviously this is just coming out, right? I go outside of social media to get my news. Obviously I'm always searching out there to see what's through all the big news agencies to just see, because at least if it comes out on here, I don't have to argue people with stuff, at least your mainstream media is reporting about this. You can't say I got this off the dark web, or you can't say I got this off 4chan, or you can't say I got this off some sort of conspiracy. These are what is coming out here. And I just wish these things were publicly known. And again, I can maybe understand not always knowing some things, because some people can take things out of context and get all riled up, and we don't need more divide. But, these are things that are important. This is someone that was really, big in politics in Canada for a long time. Obviously not quite there still, but he still talked about it, and he still deserves to be safe. Just because I don't maybe disagree with all of his politics, it doesn't mean that I think his safety should be at risk. And so I hope they continue to make sure that he's safe and keep an eye on that. But that's fucking crazy. After Global News reported of the surveillance of Singh last week, the New Democrats, now reduced to just 7 seats in the House of Commons, renewed the call for Prime Minister Mark Carney to disinvite Modi from this week's G7 summit in Alberta. The Liberal government resisted the demand, pointing to the importance of trade relations with India, the world's most populous country and 5th largest economy, and suggesting Carney and Modi were committed to law enforcement dialogue despite India's refusal to cooperate in the investigation into Nijjar's murder. Prime Minister Carney and Prime Minister Modi reaffirmed the importance of Canada-India ties based upon mutual respect, the rule of law, and a commitment to the principle of sovereignty and territorial integrity. A summary of the meeting between the two leaders provided by the Prime Minister office read, Prime Minister Carney raised priorities on the G7 agenda, including transnational crime and repression, security, and the rules-based order. Well, that is so many details of what they talked about. No, I'm just kidding. Even if they said it, I probably wouldn't fucking understand it anyways. But again, understanding too that that's obviously not great, but sometimes some things are bigger than individual situations. I always think this always happens when people get mad at politicians for all talking, but at the same time, they still have to come to the table. if they don't, it can't be, not necessarily saying a child. Nothing did happen at this time, at this current time, and we still have to function and work with each other. So you can't always just be like, fuck you, don't come and not work with people. Unfortunately, I feel like the same thing when people get mad at Trump for working with certain people. And sometimes it's always better the enemy right? Like the people that you're going to always, you have no choice what other countries are bringing to the table. You just got to deal with it, right? So you should probably deal with it instead of just being like, no, we can't talk. So I understand, and I also agree that, I mean, that sucks, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you can't put the whole country at risk with that relationship because of this. Maybe you can work through it and get to some resolution by being adults and coming to the table. So, good job, Prime Minister Carney. I agree. I understand their concerns. At the same time, like, these are things that possibly could be worked out. And it sounds like it was for a couple months and nothing else. So let's hope. But I do think we have a lot more things to worry about. However, I do feel bad for that. That does suck, especially for his family and friends, that he's just running for politicians. I'm not sure. Maybe there's deeper things that I don't know about. And if you guys know, please sound off in the comments. But as far as I can understand, I don't think he was involved in any of this stuff. So it's really unfortunate that he was targeted. And I hope that as he walks away from politics and moves back from that hopefully that would also relieve the pressure from that. And hopefully that no longer surfaces again. But it is important and kind of falls into these missing people. Like, a lot of people go missing in this country, and there's all different ways that can happen. And I think that was kind of like the theme of the episode, is these are different avenues, where Stephanie, rest in peace, she was all on her own. Doesn't sound like anything bad, like nobody did something to her. It sounds like perhaps an accident, a very unfortunate event. But that's one way someone can go missing, just traveling by themselves. So just to be very aware of the steps that you need to take to make sure that you're safe. I'm not sure what happened with the little girl in Quebec. I'm sure in the coming months we'll find out whether that's on a high level or granular. But I think that we should, again, speak about what's going on. Is there postpartum support? Are there support for single mothers? Like, what happened there? Not on that individual level, but as a grouping, what is going on? Is there support that we can be looking into providing these families? And then third, gosh, I didn't realize, we always kind of joke about Canadian politics are somewhat boring, but it sounds like it's a little bit more intense than we're finding out. And I worry that the reason why we don't know these things is because the massive censorship. And then it's like, if you're either, you don't know on social media and you're kind of ignorant to it because it's not allowed to be shared, or you're on the opposite side where all you watch is the news and then you just live and breathe this shit. It's like, there should be a nice balance. It should be able to be like people being able to share the news with their opinions on it. I think that's the part that frustrates me. It's like, that's why I'm so grateful I have this avenue to do this, because we can't do it on social media here in Canada. But anyways, you guys, I hope you stuck around to this very last article. Thank you so much if you have. Like I said, the second to last one, I'll come on next week with a couple more topics. Take a little break just of the Keeping Up with Canada. I'm sure there's so many other ones. The next episode, I'll come to you guys with some amazing accounts that do keep up with Canadian news that I'll tag in the description box so you can follow them over the next couple months and beyond while I take a break. And then, like I said, I will be posting the podcast this Wednesday. It will be in the next couple weeks of the Diddy trial. I won't be able to close that off because that thing is never going to end, I don't think, and I'll be closing the season off the first week of July, so I'll catch up with you guys on that when I come back in the fall. But as always, guys, don't forget the podcast is every Friday, and that will be going all of July. But if you want to wait, that will be posting here July and August, so you can also wait around and watch for that on YouTube. But thanks again, guys, for listening, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.